Welcome aboard. I'd like to take a moment of your time to acquaint you with the vessel. Life jackets are located in plainly marked boxes and lockers throughout the boat. Due to Massachusetts law, there is no smoking. No smoking aboard inside or outside. Please be careful using the doors. Doors are heavy and they may shut quickly. If you're traveling with kids, keep an eye on them. No running. Your dogs are required to be on a leash, and we ask that you keep your pets off of the seats and out of the lunchroom area. If you have any questions or you require assistance, come up to the purser's office. Thank you. Have a good night.
I've been walking around this boat with this thermal infrared display, and I figure this is the warmest part of the boat right here. It's like right behind this one stoke. It's kind of crazy because you can, if you angle it differently, you can see different layers of the heat kind of radiating off of the boat. And it almost looks like something you'd see on like acid or the DMT. Like you can see almost like these, the way the energy kind of, the heat kind of groups together like in these formations. Like, see the heat like kind of flowing by you off the smokestack. So it's like as the boat moves forward, you know, the heat kind of passes through this middle chamber through here. You can kind of visualize the flow of it, and I just think it looks really cool. Infrared view. It's like you don't even need take acid or mushrooms or anything. It's like, I feel like when you take acid or mushrooms, you're basically just seeing infrared, like kind of you're seeing like an infrared view that your brain is usually like filtering out. Weird how like the way the heat kind of flows, it has this kind of rhythm to it. It doesn't just all flow like you'd expect, like you'd expect the air to flow. It's kind of like it kind of stops and goes. I guess it could be the frame rate of the camera, but like if you can almost like visualize these kind of fractal patterns on. Like, I know it's kind of low resolution, but it's kind of not what I expected. Like, I almost think it looks better on these kind of low quality displays where because it's not, I feel like those higher quality displays are using an algorithm to kind of approximate the shape of what you're seeing. Like, this is not really showing you the shape of what you're looking at based off of a heat profile. This is just showing you the heat profile as is, which it's almost like existing in a parallel layer of reality that we are not normally perceiving. And so in the heat kind of, the way the heat kind of radiates outwards and convex, like it's like sometimes you'll have it convecting in one direction and kind of radiating and kind of, you realize like since it's always like transferring in multiple different ways, like the heat is kind of being pulled through like, you know, conduction, convection, radiation. It has this kind of it ends up looking like some kind of putty like consistency. Like it doesn't have like a form. Like for example, if you have like a really hot like point and you rotate it around in a circle, you expect to see a perfect circle, like a ring, but really it forms like kind of like a flat disc, because you're creating like that vortex motion that's convecting all the heat away, like in towards the center, and so it's like you realize that like when people are talking about qi and like kind of feng shui, like the way the energy flows, they're really like not like the visualizations of it are actually pretty realistic to how it looks on the. I mean, like for example, I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to light a lighter here, but maybe later I could show like off the boat, like on the island. If you hold like a lighter in front of it, and you like hold it until it gets really hot, and then you just move it around in a circle. It doesn't look like it's forming like a circle. It's like it forms like a kind of a sphere of like. It's almost like a force field of like heat, so the heat kind of globs together in these like a clay or putty. Not really so much like the way you'd imagine air. The heat flows slower than the air itself passing by you. But I mean, this is all just based off of course, a very like low quality display view that's probably being used by the Chinese government to monitor me as it's displaying this infrared view. I mean, you look at like what it looks like on a normal camera, and then you look at it what it looks like on the infrared. It's like you're seeing like all these. It almost looks like there's a consciousness to it. The way it's like they group together, and like it looks like there's like beings kind of like dancing there. It's like you're seeing into DMT space, which is like crazy. Like, you're seeing into like the kind of higher realm. I would be interested to see what it looks like in ultraviolet, like, but probably not as chaotic. But you gotta wonder, like, what would this look like in microwave view, like with the same kind of like low? Because it's like, you know, all that government like or like military technology where they're using infrared goggles, like that's not exactly like. I'm realizing that's not exactly infrared view. That's using an algorithm coupled with infrared, like infrared, to kind of approximate. Okay, like this heat signature is usually associated with this shape, right? It's kind of reverse engineering the shape based on the heat profile. But like the heat profile itself is just insane. You look at it, it's like it's not even something that you can wrap your head around. Like, you know, that's like the raw data flying by us in a simulation. Like where like you're seeing like we may as well be living in like an analog TV at this point. Like it's like. Because if you think about it, if there was another layer that looked like that, like that, when we think about like the soul and stuff, and like that might not necessarily exist in the infrared like layer, but like it might maybe like behaves in a similar fashion with that kind of chaotic flow. Like, and sometimes when you're looking at like, you can see like these structures forming with the heat, and like it really helps me visualize how feng shui is like affecting you, because of the way that your space is organized affects the flow of heat. So like, why couldn't it affect the flow of qi as well? I mean, if you think about that, like you can actually use these kind of displays to gauge your living space and see if it's like conductive to like productivity, or you know, you can like rearrange it. I'm really interested in like experimenting with the different feng shui like concepts, and then like comparing it against the what we see on this camera. Like I was just using this on the boat to find the warmest place, and like, yeah, I mean, like normally when you're on these cruises, like you're freezing your ass off. So like you're just sitting here in front of this smokestack. It's like, I have shorts on. I'm fine. The sun's already set. Like when you're in heat transfer class, and they show you the distribution like off of like one of these like smokestacks, like you realize that that's just the trend, like analyzed. The way it comes in is just like it's, not at all what I expected. Like, I thought this was gonna show me like much more precise, like I thought I was gonna see like fish swimming around in here, but like I feel like if a whale went by right now, like it's like the heat signature would come by like delayed, like almost like a ghosting like effect. It's actually really interesting. Like we did see like a whale, like kind of, that would be a cool thing. Especially on a shitty device like this that's not like doing anything with the data. It's just displaying it. Like it's not trying to refine it to make it pretty. Really, it's all about like holding it at the right angle. It's like if you just hold it the way you look at you get a lot of these straight lines if you just look at it straight. But like if you hold this pointing downwards, like you basically you don't want to focus this in like perpendicular angles to like where you're aiming, right? You want to point this kind of downwards, like looking into the fields. So you're seeing multiple fields of heat kind of interacting with each other, and you realize like in our like three-dimensional world, right? You look up and you see an object at a different elevation, but this one, it's like you're seeing all of the layers in between kind of interacting with each other and blending. So it's like you're viewing almost like the like I always imagined like, well, not always, but like when I thought this was gonna look more like viewing weather patterns or something, but it's really more like viewing like how the different weather patterns are like kind of playing into each other and interacting, like the laminar flow below like a certain elevation. That's what you're seeing like here, and then you point this up more, and you're seeing into that layer of chaotic flow. It's just really weird how even the slightest movement, like angle, like you're in the same position in the same direction, but you're just changing the angle, and it's like you're seeing a completely different layer of reality. It's like I'm wondering, like, how can we process this data in a different way instead of refining it more? Like, what if we were to extrapolate that further? It'd probably take a shitty device like this and like go the complete other direction and then start finding like you can create entire like animations like of like parallel realities that only share that only really connects to us through the heat signature. Like I mean, like just look at the patterning on that, right? Like what can you like infer about like it's like I would expect like I expect it to look more like TV static with complete randomness. It almost looks like there's like this periodic like jumping out of the ocean of like all these like kind of conscious forms that kind of group together and like form less objects, and then they break back apart and then fall back into the ocean. It's like almost like it's like an old cartoon, like it's like dancing as you go by the water. It's kind of crazy. Like I feel like this thing is basically just showing you like LSD visuals, like, and it's like $70 device, like 240 pixels, like by like 360, like. But you realize if we evolved to perceive that all the time, it's like you'd never be able to focus on like actual survival stuff, because it's like these are just like thought forms. Like, it's almost like you're seeing thought forms. Like we're living in one mind, right? And so like that's like the heat signature is almost like it almost looks like they're not allowed to just move in like a linear fashion. It's like they are. It's like I feel like I'm looking into the gray matter of a brain, right? Like this looks a lot like you're just looking at the ocean passing you by. It looks just like when they're doing imaging deep in the brain, right? Like I don't even see anything between me and the water without the infrared view, right? With the infrared, and it's like there's all this data flowing there, and it's like it's not just like it's not just like a laminar flow, like it's like well, I mean, we learned about like chaotic flow in college in heat transfer class, but like it was also two-dimensional. Like when you see it, like as it's like changing with each degree that you change the camera, it's like you realize that it's these interconnected kind of patterns that repeat. It's like you feel like you're out in space, like viewing some kind of formation. Like, you ever see those pictures of like the formation of like a galaxy or something? And it's just like these patterns that you see in the flow of the heat, like kind of resemble these echoing, rhythmic kind of patterns that you see like in the primordial like forces of like when you look really far out away from the galaxy and you see really old data. So it's like this is like it's crazy that echoes that long, and that like I feel like this little cheap $70 device is like you may as well be getting proof of like higher consciousness and kind of a structured, like you realize how structured everything is. This doesn't just look like this railing right here on this view. It's like you're not just seeing like a straight railing. It's like it has these very repeating, like as they're passing through like a random path in the ocean. It repeats these very consistent but like very chaotic, like kind of like psychedelic, like kind of like transition. Like people say like when you take psychedelics, it's just like it's just altering the view in the mind, but I think it's really what it's really doing is it's just showing you data that's like more unrefined. It's like really like the physical straight line here is the most basic level, like the most like low level. So it's like when we take all this fluoride and like all these vaccines that are like lowering your consciousness, you're really just going down to the shallowest kind of like emptiest like kind of layer of reality, but that's not like reality. That's the reality is taking in all of the data and not filtering any of it out. So I feel like that's what's insane, is the idea that this is just I'm just on a boat like in the middle of nowhere, right? Like that, whereas you look at this data view, like, this infrared view, and it's like I feel like I'm looking at DNA, like RNA transcription processes in the brain. Like you can see little red areas like that look like little like conscious forms going over and interacting with each other and then turning around and going back, and it's like kind of it's like this chain reaction like over the ocean, like kind of sending like consciousness. It's almost like the aurora borealis like looks like it's like sending like some kind of data, which it is, right? It's like really what you're seeing here is like microwaves and like ultraviolet waves are like hitting the earth and kind of then being translated, kind of like when the greenhouse effect, but like in a different layer, right? So it's like these aren't literal ultraviolet and like magnetic and like other like solar radiation, but you're seeing this essentially looks just like solar wind because it can only form, like the heat can only move in certain directions at any certain time because it's also being affected by forces. It's like a chain reaction from the solar wind. And there's a lag in that. So it's like when we look at infrared, we're really seeing like what the universe probably looked like, you know, back when there was just like all this like condensed like solar wind kind of in chaos, right? It's like, it's crazy. It's like you're living in like 10 million years ago. Like, it's, I mean, like, you can't even make sense out of it. Like, I mean, yeah, if you look right at what temperature it is, it's like, well, you're looking straight at it. Like, it's like suddenly you're seeing how the temperature flow is so chaotic. Like, and it's like, I don't know. I took some Ativan before I got on this thing, so I feel like I'm going in circles. But it's like, if you sit here and play with this, like, you can get some really crazy visuals on these screens. And also, it's very easy. It's very easy to hide your heat signature if you just like spin around, like you know, have like a lighter in your hand. Like, it's like they can't tell who you are. They can't, like, you know, all they can tell is that there's like it looks almost they couldn't tell the difference if you're like a quasar or like a. It just looks like you're like, it's like crazy. If you have like a infrared camera looking at you, right, and you can see your whole body outline, you can see your facial structures, and then you just bring a lighter into view, instantly your entire body disappears, and all you see is the lighter, right? I mean, and that's partially how this screen is interpreting the data, right? But imagine you get a torch lighter and, like, you know, like a dab rig, and suddenly all they see is a nail. They see a floating nail, right? And so it's like really like, you know, the shamans are like actually just kind of all obscuring. It's kind of like, you know, when you're on the internet, they either see identity, right? Like, or they see that you're anonymizing your identity. You know what I mean? I think I might have just broke this, but I mean, it was a very cheap. No, I didn't. But it's just, if you're holding a lighter in front of you, it's basically like running a VPN. Like, you know, it's like they can see that there's a person there, and they know that they have a lighter running. Like, it's like kids always know when you're on a Tor browser or like Proton VPN. And it says that they can't tell what you're doing with it. So it's the same thing. It's like, okay, when you're holding a lighter in front of you, it's like they know if they're smoking weed or doing meth or crack or something, right? So they know it's something suspicious, but technically it is possible you're just sitting there with a lighter. It's technically possible you're just going on Facebook, just Tor browser, right? It's just like, it's just crazy. Like, all these things kind of like, it's like the same concept, just like, yeah, you know, maybe if I go over here, I know, you're really not supposed to light lighters on boats. I'm not going to do it. I'll do it later, but like, it's a cool experiment. Like, if you just like move a lighter around in a circle, you can create like these shapes and like stuff that like completely anonymize your heat signature. Also, like umbrellas, you have a black umbrella in front of you. You can't see shit, right? Like, you could just be trying to protect yourself from the sun, or you could be trying to like project a more like ambiguous heat signature. But it's kind of disturbing to have these like devices, right? And realize that, like, with a strong, you know, if you with a little bit more money, you could get a device where like your neighbor could just watch you through the wall, and it's not like real time. Like, they're not going to see each stroke of your dick, but like, you know, they're going to tell the difference if the heat's coming from your dick versus if it's coming from your head, or if it's coming from your chest. You know what I mean? It's like your neighbors can pretty much tell if you're jacking off. They can't really watch you jack off with this, but it's like pretty insane that like we give off these heat signatures, and it's just like how when you're online in the 90s, you don't realize that like you're giving off all these like packets that tell the feds exactly what you're doing at any given time. You know, it's like we're getting off all this heat data that's telling like the satellites up there, okay, like this guy's jacking off, this guy's smoking meth, this guy's like having sex, like this guy's like destroying his his room in a fit of rage. And it's just like, there's really no privacy. It's like this was $70. You know what I mean? This device. And of course, like, you would have to interpret this data through some kind of computer application. Like, this device does not really have the power to, like, to give you all that specific information. But I mean, it allowed me to pick the warmest seat on the ferry. I mean, you know. TV. You can't really change the angle that your TV that's static because it's moving so fast that it's like it's always going to look the same. Like, you'd have to, like, the equivalent would be like looking at the TV static of, like, Earth when it's at like the solstice one year, and then look at the solstice like 10 years later and then compare the difference between the patterns. Whereas this, you just have to change it like 2 angles. It's like you can see. Like, I feel like I can see like angels sometimes when I look out like at the sky with infrared view. It's like you're seeing, like, doesn't it look like kind of like birds or something? Like, but there's nothing out there if you look at it. No, it's like, so it's like really the aurora borealis is just like a phenomenon that's visual. Like, it's, you know, it's really showing you a very similar visual to something that's all around 24/7. If that's all you, if you only need 7. Well, yeah, my service. I'm not really saying anything. I just figured it would be awkward to, like, not say anything as I should. I just think it looked. You know, I just have to make the cool trippy visuals with this thing, like, because it's like it's kind of like staring into fire, like 24/7, except for like the fire is like radiating throughout the sky, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's just like, it's creepy though. It's creepy that, like, all you need is like some cheap sensors and like some data processing software, and, like, you know, all your neighbors can tell, like, who's, like, you know, who's jacking off and who's eating dinner. It's like, I mean, you can't, but this can't even see, you know, it's like, it's just knowing that, like, it's like getting really hot consistently in one consistent zone where he, like, it's like he's probably just sitting there smoking meth, you know what I mean? It's like, there's certain things, like heat signatures that, like, are just very hard to hide. Like, if you're stagnant for too long, like, if you just spin around constantly, it completely hides your heat signature. You just look like a, like, there's no way to differentiate that between like a smokestack that was shaped like a cylinder, you know what I mean? But if you sit completely still, it's like, it can, like, echolocation, you know what I mean? Like, a bat can't really echolocate that well off of like a moving piece of machinery. Right, that's why I get really curious if you, like, bang together like tin cans and stuff. But they don't really go up to like tin cans, they're just sitting there stationary. So it's like, I'd say that's probably why Sufis are spinning around, like, they're attracting like these spirits that, like, otherwise just see humans, but then they see like more ambiguous forms. So it's really, I don't know, make of that what you will. I'm not drawing any conclusions from that. I'm on too much advance to think about that spiritually. I mean, it's like, I don't really understand what any of that means. Just came from that. A flow on, like, because, like, think about it, right in front of that smokestack you have a bunch of cold air flowing onto those benches, and the warm air only gets to go on them for a few seconds, whereas these benches here, it looks like they're so out in the middle and exposed, but really, like, these benches are constantly being warmed up by like the smokestack. But, like, oh, that's a perfect example. See how if you look at the bottom part of the smokestack, it looks all red, right? The second that the top of it goes into view, it completely changes blue, because that top of the smokestack